so I feel like I've already talked about this, and this is me. How about if I could say I'm passing the torch? All right, so passing the torch. Um, well, I mean, it's not my torch to pass. I don't guess. But, I was trying to, trying to, trying to sort of get clarity about Eastern European roots in the family. And I do think, on our mom's side, there's there's the ancestor where my brothers and I are ninth generation, and I've talked about that before. But I on dad's side, I don't really quite know. There are things people don't talk about, but then there are things where it's like, all right, there's some culture. There's culture, and how much does culture blend without it being sort of families that I don't not talk. I don't really think I want to use the phrase blended families because isn't family family, but but I thought I would look for the name Cohen since in Georgia there are a lot of Cohens and in Atlanta I think that there was a Cohen who was one of the owners of the Atlanta Journal Constitution at one point and I think they actually converted I think maybe to Presbyterianism if that's an ism and whatever this what is conversion all right so perhaps that's partly why I looked at Cohen. I just thought Cohen seems like a good place to start and looking at Russia and thinking about Georgia and Russian Georgian history. All right, because there is. I mean, and it's like all right. I mean, just well, our mom's husband again. I have said I has some Russian family in his family lineage but I don't think that's it. Well, maybe, I don't think that's all that it is. I think about the way that we ate growing up, and there was quite a lot of Eastern European food. When I started thinking about foods that we ate and kind of making a list, it's like, yeah, that's a lot to just be like, oh, yeah, that looks good at the grocery store. So, anyway, yeah, I mean, community, culture blending, there's stuff like that that goes on, but onto the class. If you want a little history learning adventure, Find a Grave is a really good place to learn some history. I mean, really, it's not complete. There are things that are not complete, but I recommend it. So Find a Grave. If you go into Find a Grave and if you put Cohen, Cohen, and you put Russia as the place, and then you're going to get some real interesting history to start looking at. And I mean, really, when I started looking at that, it's like, I mean, wow. I mean, I wasn't trying to win the lottery, I was just trying to see what I could find. I thought maybe there were a whole lot of Cohens that had come from Russia to Georgia, and I guess maybe the name is spelled differently, but yeah, so Cohen, Cohen, in Russia, and just if you read a description, you can go to different relatives, you can look for links to other pages, and I mean, there's a shit ton of history, nuclear, espionage, and and I do think about people who there, the Rosenbergs were executed, and for accused of nuclear espionage, and that is not okay. And what was that all about anyway? Who needs weapons? Why does anyone need weapons? Does anyone need weapons? I mean, where did anyone get the idea that humans need to do those things to each other? There's a question. But yeah, so if anyone wants a little thing, and I mean, that might be a little mature for school children to work on a project like that, just reading the history, but you will see a huge amount. And I just thought I would throw it out there. When I saw that, I'm like, that ain't my shit. I mean, that for sure ain't my shit. Yes, I student taught in Oak Ridge, and yes, I long-term substitute taught physics and physical science. And, I was in a relationship with someone who has a PhD in nuclear physics and then met someone that used me badly, 4+ years ago that worked on nuclear subs, Army and Navy veteran, and yeah, that was unpleasant. But I mean, nuclear residue comes to mind. I mean, I think about all the harm that has been done, and And well, what are ways to prevent more harm? Cold War, yeah, that's some Cold War history. And, I mean, has the Cold War ended? What is it exactly? And is there Cold War within families? I have to wonder about that because when people treat you, without a warm heart, with cold, calculating, and intentionally hurtful and harmful behavior, I mean, that's cold. A person might say that's some kind of war. I personally would prefer not to use that word. But anyhow, yeah. A suggestion, well, not really, but just sort of letting anyone know who wants to sort of, you know, follow a little lead of history, and be like, wow. I mean, there's